The halls of Zenith Academy smelled like recycled air and broken dreams. At least, that is what Kira Chen thought as she stuffed her datapad into her bag with more force than necessary. Another day of condescending lectures from beings who had never felt actual gravity pull at their bones, never tasted real date, never understood what it meant to come from a planet that actively tried to kill you every single day. Earth! Her beautiful, violent, absolutely psychotic home planet. Hey, Mudsider! Kira did not turn around. She knew that voice. Velrax, a KRWNN from one of those pampered colony worlds where the biggest threat was probably a mildly inconvenient rainstorm. The kind of place where evolution had made its inhabitants tall, graceful, and completely useless in any situation that required actual survival instincts. I am talking to you, Deathworlder. Now she turned. Slowly. The kind of slow that made predators back on Earth pause and reconsider their life choices. Velrax stood there with his usual crew. Thane, a hulking Gormith who looked intimidating until you realized he had the pain tolerance of wet tissue paper. And Zix, a Pelian female whose species had literally never developed a fight or flight response because they had never needed one. Lucky them. Can I help you? Kira asked, her voice honey-sweet with just enough acid underneath to strip paint. Or are you just practicing your impressive ability to state the obvious? Velrax's face, or what passed for a face in his species, twisted into something approximating anger. His skin rippled through several colors, probably trying to be threatening. Kira had seen more intimidating displays from her grandmother's cat. You think you are so special, he hissed, stepping closer. Just because you come from some barbaric rock where everything is trying to eat you. You think that makes you better than us. Kira tilted her head, considering. Better? No. More likely to survive if someone dropped us all on a random planet with no supplies? Absolutely yes. But hey, that is just statistics, not judgment. Thane cracked his knuckles, which would have been more impressive if the sound had not been so pathetically quiet. You have been disrespecting Velrax all semester. Time someone taught you your place. Human. My place. Kira laughed, and it was not a nice laugh. It was a kind of laugh that came from a species that had looked at saber-toothed tigers and thought, you know what, I bet I could take that thing with a pointy stick. My place is wherever I decide to stand. Big guy. That is kind of humanity's whole thing. We are annoyingly persistent like that. The corridor had gone quiet. Other students, various species from across the known galaxy, had stopped to watch. Some looked concerned. Most looked curious. A few, the smart ones, were already backing away. Zix spoke up, her voice carrying that musical quality her people were famous for. You should apologize to Velrax. He comes from an important family. Making enemies is unwise. You know what else is unwise? Kira shot back, her smile never reaching her eyes. Cornering someone from a Class 12 Deathworld in an empty corridor and expecting them to roll over. But here we are, defying expectations and making questionable choices. Velrax moved fast, faster than Kira had expected from someone who looked like they had never missed a meal or faced a genuine threat. His hand shot out, grabbing her shoulder with surprising strength. Big mistake. Kira did not think. Thinking was for situations that had not already crossed several very important lines. Her hand came up, fingers finding the pressure point on Velrax's wrist with a kind of precision that came from a childhood spent in Earth's overcrowded cities where knowing how to defend yourself was not optional. He yelped, a high-pitched sound that would have been funny under different circumstances. Touch me again, Kira said, her voice dropping to something cold and flat, and I will show you exactly why my planet has a warning label in every single galactic database. Thane lunged. Again, impressive in theory, terrible in execution. Kira sidestepped, using his own momentum against him. It was basic physics. Really, mass times velocity equals someone very large and very stupid hitting the wall very hard. The impact made a satisfying thunk that echoed down the corridor. Okay. Zix held up her hands, her bioluminescent patches flickering with what Kira recognized as fear. Good. Fear kept people alive. We do not want trouble. We were just what? Kira interrupted. Just trying to intimidate the human? Just trying to remind me that I am different, that I do not belong here among all you civilized species? Just trying to make yourselves feel bigger by making me feel smaller." She stepped forward, and all three of them stepped back. The crowd that had gathered was completely silent now. "Here's something you should know about humans," Kira continued, her voice carrying clearly in the quiet corridor. "We do not do well with bullies. We really do not do well with being cornered. And we have this absolutely irritating habit of refusing to know when we are beaten. It is genetic. We cannot help it." Velrax had recovered his composure, mostly. His colors had stabilized into an angry purple-red. "This is not over, Mudsider. You cannot hide behind your planet's reputation forever. One day you will be alone, and we will..." "Will what?" Kira challenged. "Finish your threat, please. I want to make sure I understand exactly what you are planning so I can explain it very clearly to the Dean when I file my incident report." That stopped him. Good. Legal consequences were apparently scarier than physical ones for people who had never had to fight for anything real. The three of them left, trying to maintain some dignity, which was difficult when you were essentially retreating from someone half your size. The crowd dispersed slowly, conversation starting up in hushed tones. Kira let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Her hands were shaking slightly, adrenaline dumping into her system with nowhere to go. This was a problem with being human in a galaxy that had largely evolved past physical conflict. Your body still prepared you for fights to the death even when the actual danger was mostly social. That was either very brave or very stupid. Kira turned to find Professor Thane standing in a doorway. The Viridian had apparently watched the whole thing. "Great. Just perfect. Probably stupid," Kira admitted. "But I'm really tired of the Deathworld comments. It gets old." Thane's face, which was mostly eyes and tentacles, arranged itself into what might have been sympathy. "I understand. However, Velrax was correct about one thing. His family has considerable influence. You may have made your life more difficult." "My life was already difficult," Kira pointed out. "I am from Earth. Difficult is our baseline. Everything else is just extra." The professor made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Indeed. However, I would recommend being careful, Miss Chen. Not all battles need to be fought directly." "Respectfully, Professor, that is easy to say when you are not the one being cornered in hallways and treated like some kind of exotic curiosity or dangerous animal." Thane was quiet for a moment. "You are correct. I apologize. I cannot truly understand your experience here. But I can tell you that the security systems in this sector have been malfunctioning lately. The cameras, specifically, they have been glitching." Kira looked at him sharply. There was something in his tone, something deliberate. "Glitching," she repeated slowly. "Yes, very unfortunate. Entire sections of corridor going on watch for hours at a time. The maintenance crew is investigating, but these things take time to repair. Days, sometimes. Weeks, even." Their eyes met, and understanding passed between them. "I see," Kira said carefully. "That does sound unfortunate. I will be sure to be extra careful in areas where the cameras might not be working properly." "A wise precaution," Thane agreed. "Have a pleasant evening, Miss Chen." He disappeared back into his office, leaving Kira alone in the corridor. She stood there for a long moment, processing what had just happened, then processing what the professor had essentially just told her. The cameras were not working, which meant no evidence, which meant if Velrax and his friend decided to come back, to try again when there were no witnesses, there would be no record of what happened, which also meant if Kira decided to stop holding back, there would be no record of that either. She should have felt worried, concerned, at least. Instead, she felt something else entirely. Something that probably said unflattering things about her character, but was honest nonetheless. She felt ready. Kira made her way back to her dormitory, her mind working through scenarios and possibilities. The thing about being human, about coming from Earth, was that you learned to think several steps ahead. You had to. It was how the species had survived everything from ice ages to plagues to themselves. Her room was small but functional. Zenith Academy did not discriminate in housing, which meant everyone got the same cramped quarters regardless of their species' usual spatial requirements. Kira actually did not mind. It reminded her of home, of the habitat modules where space was always at a premium. She sat down at her desk and pulled up her personal logs. Time to document everything. Dates, times, witnesses, exact words spoken. If this escalated, and her instinct screamed that it would, she wanted her version of events clearly recorded. The thing about bullies, Kira had learned long ago, was that they rarely stopped on their own. They escalated. They pushed until they either got what they wanted or hit something that pushed back harder than they could handle. Velrax and his friends had just discovered they had been pushing on something with very sharp edges. Her communicator buzzed. A message from Maya Rodriguez, one of the few other humans at the Academy. Heard you had excitement today. You okay? Kira smiled despite herself. Maya was good people, even if she was from one of the nicer parts of Earth where the wildlife was only moderately deadly. I am fine, she typed back. Just the usual diplomatic relations with our non-Deathworld peers. Translation: someone started something and you finished it. Something like that. Want backup? I know we are not supposed to form Deathworld gangs or whatever, but seriously, I will absolutely help you hide a body if needed. Kira laughed out loud at that. Appreciated, but I think I can handle it. Besides, pretty sure actual murder would get us expelled. Probably, but it would send a message. That it would. They chatted for a few more minutes before Kira signed off. She appreciated Maya's support, but this was a problem to deal with. Getting other humans involved would just confirm every stereotype about Deathworlders being tribal and aggressive. Never mind that the stereotypes existed because they were often accurate, but that was beside the point. Kira spent the rest of the evening reviewing her coursework and trying not to think about the coming days. Sleep, when it finally came, was restless and filled with dreams of Earth. Of rain that felt real, gravity that did not need generators, and skies that were blue because of actual atmosphere, not holographic projections. She woke before her alarm, which was normal. Humans from Earth rarely slept well on station time. Something about the artificial day-night cycles never quite sync with biological rhythms evolved under a real sun. The morning classes passed uneventfully. Professor Thane gave her a subtle nod during advanced xenobiology, which she returned. Otherwise, everything seemed normal. Too normal. Kira's instincts, honed by millions of years of evolution on a planet that rewarded paranoia, screamed that something was wrong. She could not put her finger on what exactly, but every sense she had was telling her to be alert, be ready, be prepared. She was not surprised when she turned a corner after her last afternoon class and found Velrax waiting. He was not alone this time. Thorin and Zix were there, of course, but they had brought friends. 6 beings total, various species, all bigger than her, all blocking the corridor. And every single security camera in sight had a small maintenance tag blinking next to its lens. Offline, just like Professor Thane had mentioned. Kira stopped walking. Behind her, she heard footsteps. More of them, cutting off a retreat. She was surrounded, cornered, in a disabled surveillance zone with no witnesses. Velrax smiled, showing way too many teeth. Hello again, Mudsider. I believe we have some unfinished business to discuss. Kira set down her bag carefully, never taking her eyes off them. Her heart rate kicked up, adrenaline flooding her system. Her breathing deepened, pulling more oxygen into her blood. Her muscles tense, ready to explode into action. This was it, the moment where being human, being from Earth, being from a death world, stopped being an insult and started being a warning. You know what? Kira said, her voice absolutely calm despite the chemical cocktail her body was brewing for violence. I think you are absolutely right. We do have unfinished business. She smiled then, and it was not a nice smile. It was a smile of a species that had climbed its way to the top of the food chain on a planet where almost everything else was bigger, faster, stronger, and more deadly. It was a smile of someone who had decided that retreat was not an option and consequences were tomorrow's problem. So let us finish it. Retry. The thing about predators, real predators from actual death worlds, is that they understand body language in ways that civilized species have forgotten. Kira could see it in their eyes the moment her posture changed. The subtle shift from defensive to something else entirely. Something that made their evolutionary hindbrain, buried under millennia of safe evolution, suddenly scream warnings they did not consciously understand. Good. Velrax moved first, which was his second mistake. His first had been showing up at all. He lunged forward with his claws extended, probably expecting Kira to back away, to flinch, to show fear. She did none of those things. Instead, she stepped into his attack, inside his reach where those claws could not get proper leverage. Her elbow came up hard and fast, catching him in what passed for a solar plexus in his species. The air went out of him with a satisfying whoosh, and he folded like a cheap tent. One down, Kira said conversationally. Who is next? Thane roared, because of course he did. Intimidation displays were big in his culture. Unfortunately for him, Kira had grown up in Chicago where people roared at each other over parking spaces. She was thoroughly unimpressed. He charged like a freight train, all mass and momentum and absolutely no technique. Kira waited until the last possible second, then dropped and swept his legs. Physics and gravity did the rest. He went down hard, his head bouncing off the floor with a crack that made everyone else wince. 2 down, Kira continued, circling now, keeping them all in her peripheral vision. Come on, guys. You brought 8 people to corner 1 human. Surely you can do better than this. Zix was hanging back, her bioluminescence flickering rapidly. Smart. Self-preservation instincts finally kicking in. But 3 others were moving in, trying to coordinate, trying to surround her properly. Kira let them think they were succeeding. A Drazion male came from her left, tentacles reaching. She grabbed one, twisted, and used his own appendage as leverage to throw him into his friend. They went down in a tangle of limbs and very colorful language that her translator could not quite process. 4 and 5, Kira counted helpfully. Anyone else? That was when things got interesting. The remaining 3 rushed her simultaneously, finally showing some tactical thinking. Kira took a hit to her shoulder that would absolutely bruise later, but she managed to get her hands on a Pelea male's face, fingers finding pressure points that made him scream and stumble backwards. Someone grabbed her from behind. Big arms, strong grip. Probably thought they had her. Kira dropped her weight suddenly, then kicked backwards hard. Her heel connected with something that made a crunching sound. The grip released immediately, accompanied by a howl of pain. She spun, breathing hard now, adrenaline singing through her veins. 7 beings down or backing away. Only Zix remained standing and not currently trying to attack, watching with those large eyes that reflected too much light. You should go, Kira told her, not unkindly. Tell whoever asked that you tried to stop this. Tell them the human was crazy, violent, everything they always suspected about Deathworlders. I will back up your story. Zix did not need to be told twice. She fled, her footsteps echoing down the corridor. Velrax was struggling to his feet, his color shifting through about 15 different shades of angry and hurt and shocked. You cannot. This is assault. You attacked us. Kira laughed, and it was slightly unhinged even to her own ears. Oh, that is precious. You cornered me with 8 beings in a section where the cameras conveniently stopped working, and I'm the aggressor? Please, do tell that story to the authorities. I am sure they will find it fascinating. You think you are untouchable. Velrax spat, literally spat, some kind of mucus landing near her feet. You think being from Earth makes you special. No, Kira said quietly, the laughter gone from her voice. Being from Earth makes me tired. It makes me exhausted from constantly proving I belong here, from dealing with people like you who think Deathworlder means stupid or savage or less than. It makes me angry in ways you cannot begin to understand. She stepped closer, and Velrax actually stepped back. But you know what it also makes me. Kira continued. Adaptable. Resilient. Very, very good at surviving situations where I absolutely should not. My ancestors looked at predators 3 times their size with nothing but rocks and determination, and they said, you know what, I bet we can take it. And they did. Over and over and over again, they did. Thane was groaning on the floor, trying to sit up. The others were in various states of hurt and shocked. None of them looked like they wanted round 2. So here's what is going to happen, Kira said, her voice taking on a harder edge. You are going to take your friends and leave. You are going to think very carefully about whether escalating the situation is really worth it. And if you decide it is, if you come after me again, I will not hold back like I just did. Hold back. Velrax's voice was high, disbelieving. You call this holding back? Kira met his eyes dead on. I broke exactly 0 bones just now. Nobody is bleeding. Nobody needs serious medical attention. Yes, I held back. Because despite what you think of humans, despite what the galaxy thinks of Deathworlders, we actually have pretty good impulse control. We have to, or we would have wiped ourselves out millennia ago. She picked up a bag, slinging it over her shoulder. But impulse control is not the same as unlimited patience. Push me again, and you will discover exactly how creative humans can get when we stop caring about consequences. Kira walked away then, past groaning bodies and shocked faces, her heart hammering in her chest. She made it around 2 corners before the shake started. Adrenaline crash, perfectly normal, completely expected. She leaned against a wall, breathing deep, waiting for her body to remember it was not actually in mortal danger anymore. Footsteps approached, and she tensed again before recognizing them. Professor Thane rounded the corner, taking in her appearance with those large eyes. Miss Chen, I heard some disturbance. Did you? Kira asked carefully. That is surprising, given the camera malfunctions in this sector. Indeed, most unfortunate. Thane moved closer, lowering his voice. Are you injured? Bruises. Nothing serious. And the others? Also nothing serious. I was very careful about that. Thane made a humming sound. Good. That shows remarkable restraint. For the record, I saw nothing. The cameras saw nothing. As far as official records go, this section of corridor has been empty all afternoon. Kira looked at him sharply. Why are you helping me? The professor was quiet for a moment. Because I was there 40 years ago, when the first humans arrived at galactic institutions. I saw how they were treated, what they endured, and I saw how many gave up and went home because the isolation and hostility became unbearable. He paused, his tentacles moving in patterns Kira had learned meant deep thought. The galaxy needs Deathworlders, Miss Chen. We have become soft, complacent. We have forgotten that the universe is not inherently safe or kind. Humans remember. You remember. That perspective is valuable, even when it makes others uncomfortable. Thank you, Kira said quietly. That means more than you know. You should return to your dormitory. Rest. Process. And Miss Chen, if you need someone to talk to, someone who will not judge, my office is always open. He left her there, and Kira made her way back to her room on autopilot. Her hands were still shaking slightly when she unlocked her door. The small space had never looked more welcoming. She collapsed onto her bed, staring at the ceiling. What had she done? Attacked 8 beings. That was what? Sure, they had cornered her first. Sure, it was self-defense. But would anyone see it that way? Or would this just confirm every negative stereotype about humans being violent and unstable? Her communicator buzzed insistently. Maya again. Okay, seriously, what happened? The entire campus is buzzing with rumors about you fighting like 6 beings single-handedly. It was 8, actually, Kira typed back. But who is counting? What? Are you okay? Do you need medical? Do you need legal? Do you need me to come over there with snacks and moral support? Despite everything, Kira smiled. I am okay. Shaken but okay. And yes to snacks, always yes to snacks. On my way. And Kira, whatever happened, whatever you did, I guarantee they had it coming. Humans do not start fights. We just finished them. Maya arrived 20 minutes later with an impressive array of oath snacks that must have cost a fortune at the import shop. They sat on Kira's bed, eating chocolate that tasted almost like the real thing and drinking coffee that definitely did not, while Kira told her everything. They really thought they could intimidate you. Maya asked around a mouthful of chips. Did they miss the entire section in galactic history about why humans are classified as apex predators? Apparently, or they thought it was exaggeration. Kira shook her head. The look on Velrax's face when he realized I was actually fighting back, not just offending. That was something. Good. Let them learn. Maybe now they will think twice before cornering the next human student. Maya paused. You know this is going to spread, right? By tomorrow, everyone will have heard some version of events. I know. I am trying not to think about it. Could work in your favor, honestly. Nothing says do not mess with me quite like taking on 8 beings and walking away. Kira laughed despite herself. That is a terrible lesson. I should not have to fight people to earn basic respect. You should not, Maya agreed seriously. But we do not live in a shit world. We live in this world. And in this world, sometimes you have to remind people that Deathworlder is not an insult, it is a warning label. They talked late into the night, processing everything, planning for potential consequences. Maya crashed on Kira's floor, refusing to leave her alone. It was exactly what Kira needed, even if she had not known it. The next morning came too quickly. Kira dragged herself to her first class, expecting whispers, stays, maybe even official summons to the dean's office. What she got was something entirely different. Silence. Not hostile silence, but careful silence. Students who usually ignored her now gave her space in the corridors. Beings who had looked through her like she was invisible now met her eyes briefly before looking away. Respect? Fear? Probably both mixed together. In advanced xenobiology, Professor Thane conducted class normally, never acknowledging yesterday's events. But when he assigned partnership projects, Kira noticed something interesting. 4 different beings volunteered to work with her. 4. She usually had to scramble to find someone willing to partner with a Deathworlder. By lunch, the whispers had started. Kira caught fragments as she moved through the cafeteria. 8 of them, I heard. Velrax still in medical. Did not even break a sweat. Deathworlders, man, they are built different. She found an empty table and sat down with her tray of food that was nutritionally complete, but tasted like cardboard had been optimized for efficiency. Maya joined her moments later, along with 2 other human students Kira knew only in passing. Mind if we sit? One asked, a tall guy named James from the Mars colonies. Figured safety in numbers and all that. Sure, Kira said, genuinely surprised. Humans at the Academy typically stayed spread out, not wanting to seem tribal or clannish. The 4th human was Sarah, from one of the Generation ships. She leaned in conspiratorially. So, heard you had quite the day yesterday. News travels fast. Campus of 10,000 beings from 800 species. Yeah, news travels at basically light speed. Sarah grinned. Also, you are now officially a legend among the human students. Congratulations. I really did not want to be a legend. I just wanted them to leave me alone. James nodded understandingly. Yeah, but that is not how it works, is it? They push, we push back, suddenly we are the violent ones. Classic. They ate in companionable silence for a while before Maya spoke up. You know what the best part is? Velrax filed an official complaint about the incident. Kira's head snapped up. He what? Oh yay. Claimed you attacked him unprovoked. Real victim complex stuff. Maya's grin was shock-like. Unfortunately for him, Zix filed her own statement. Said you were cornered, that Velrax organized it, that you defended yourself. Said she tried to stop it and you let her leave unharmed. She did that? Kira was genuinely shocked. Apparently witnessing an Earth human in full defense mode gave her a newfound respect for truth and consequences. Sarah laughed. The dean threw out Velrax's complaint and gave him a formal warning about organizing group harassment. He is on academic probation now. Kira sat back, processing this. Justice. Actual justice. She had not expected that. So what happens now? James asked. You become the campus enforcer? Start taking on anyone who looks at humans funny? Absolutely not, Kira said firmly. I am not looking for fights. Yesterday was about survival and self-defense, nothing more. But if someone else needs help, Maya prompted, if another human student, or any student really, gets cornered like that. Kira thought about it, thought about everything she had learned about herself in that corridor, about being human, about being from Earth, about what it meant to survive. Then I guess they will learn the same lesson Velrax did, she said finally, that Deathworlders do not start fights. We do not look for violence, but we absolutely will not be victims. The others nodded, understanding passing between them. They were humans, after all. They got it. The rest of the day passed more smoothly than Kira had dared hope. She even received a message from Professor Thane, informing her that the security cameras in her corridor section had mysteriously repaired themselves overnight. How convenient. That evening, alone in her room again, Kira pulled up her personal logs and added a new entry. Day 127 at Zenith Academy. Today I learned that sometimes being human means standing your ground even when it is terrifying. It means defending yourself when cornered. It means being willing to face consequences for refusing to be a victim. My ancestors survived ice ages and predators and plagues and wars because they adapted, because they fought when necessary, because they never accepted that they were less than anything else in the universe. I carry that legacy, whether I want to or not. And maybe, just maybe, that is okay. The galaxy does not have to like us. It just has to respect that we belong here as much as anyone else. We are humans. We are from Earth, and we are not going anywhere. She closed the log and looked out her small window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there was Earth, spinning through space, birthing generation after generation of stubborn, adaptable, determined survivors. And one of those survivors was here, standing her ground, refusing to back down. Kira smiled. Tomorrow she would go to class. She would study xenobiology and galactic law and advanced physics. She would be a student, nothing more, nothing less. But if someone cornered her again, if someone mistook her presence for weakness, they would learn exactly what Professor Thane had meant. The galaxy needed Deathworlders, not because humans were perfect or inherently better, but because they remembered what so many had forgotten. That survival is not given. It is earned. Every single day. It is earned. And humans have been owning it for millions of years. They were not about to stop now.